The legend, Mr. Carbajal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Buttigieg, before I get to my questions, I wanted to commend you and the Biden administration for getting out the bipartisan infrastructure law funding out the door quickly. Certainly, the bipartisan infrastructure law represents the largest federal investment in infrastructure in many decades. In my district alone, this has translated to over $500 million to date for nearly 100 projects throughout the Central Coast. And airports in my district have received more than $19.5 million through the Federal Aviation Administration. I recently had the opportunity to tour some of the airports in my district to highlight this funding and all that the funding will be able to achieve. And they have shared with me that this will make certainly a big difference. However, they have also highlighted significant challenges with PFAS, forever chemicals and pollution. As a result, I recently introduced two bills aimed at helping airports successfully transition from old firefighting foam containing PFAS to alternative products that will be much safer for our environment and first responders. Now that there is a product officially listed on the qualified products list, I have a two-part question. What role will the Department of Transportation play in helping airports successfully transition to this new product? And what can Congress do to help?
Thanks for the question, and this is a very important issue that we hear about in so many communities. To answer the first part of your question, the FAA highly encourages airports to transition away from firefighting materials that contain PFAS to reduce the potential human health and environmental impacts that come from that contamination. Earlier this year in May, the FAA published the Aircraft Firefighting Foam Transition Plan to ensure the orderly transition, and to develop that, did a lot of work with critical stakeholders and formed a fluorine-free foam transition working group to assist with the development of a national transition plan for Part 139 certified airports. We're also going to continue working with DoD, which of course has its own lines of effort with regard to this, and we're going to share with the airport operators any best practices that we develop on that side. And to help the ARFF, the rescue and firefighting personnel, we're developing a training handout, video, other information depicting tactics and techniques for utilizing these materials. As to the second question, we welcome any help from Congress in addressing this issue, because it is something that is needed, it is urgent, but it represents a sea change in how firefighting has been handled at aviation facilities.
Thank you. On August 14th, OMB issued revised guidelines or guidance on the implementation of Build America, Buy America. I appreciate that OMB followed the law and listened to concerns raised by me and many of my colleagues to ensure that guidance will not hinder any shovel-ready projects. The compliance date is fast approaching, as all impacted projects have to be completed by October 23rd. Could you talk about how DOT is working to implement the BABA provisions and working to ensure clear guidance is provided to state DOTs and other partners to ensure a seamless transition and ensure that we prevent delays and confusion on the ground?
Thanks. We want to make sure there is clear, consistent, and predictable information when it comes to Buy America and Build America, Buy America provisions. And what we've been focused on is reviewing the general applicability waivers that aren't product specific, some of them that have been around for decades without being thoroughly reviewed. And also looking at some of the more specific cases that come up that really vary by industry. With regard to chargers, for example, in February, Federal Highways issued the Build America, Buy America implementation plan, and then on July issued Q&As to get information to project sponsors that are facing these issues right now. We also, in August, did issue a public interest waiver for de minimis costs and small grants, trying to balance our very important policy aims with common sense. Then there's the OMB guidance that you mentioned with the general effective date of October 23rd of this year. In it, OMB states it's going to issue an updated guidance memorandum prior to the effective date. So that will come from OMB, but then the Federal Highway Administration will use that guidance that comes from OMB to make sure we push that out in our own Q&As so that our project sponsors get the information that they need about how that affects anything that touches federal highways.
Thank you. I look forward to you coming to my district. I've asked many times, but I know you'll find some time to come in the near future. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll yield back.
Thanks, guys.
The chair recognizes Mr. Webster.